I'm here to solve some more physics problems for you. This one is a memory I have from my childhood where my mom used to repeatedly say I was just talking too much, as young kids do. Her famous phrase was, your mouth is running a mile a minute. So I thought I'd make a neat little problem out of this and just ask exactly how fast is a mile a minute, i.e., 1 mile per minute. And probably many of you may have already guessed this answer or might even worked it out. I'm not sure. All I know is I finally got around to doing it when I was probably a junior or sophomore in high school and got a kick out of it. So let me share the screen so you see what the question is. So I'm asking this one, how fast is a mile per minute in miles per hour? I also want to know it in kilometers per hour. How fast is it in meters per second? And finally, in meters per second, how fast is 1 mile per hour? Because that's something we can use over and over and over again, because we're often going to be thinking in terms of the stuff we see on TV, maybe professional quarterback throwing a pass that's 86 miles per hour, or a professional baseball pitcher, even a college pitcher that's throwing at 100 miles per hour. We might want to know what's that in meters per second. So that's what we're going to shoot for. So let's stop sharing this and let's start sharing my iPad where we can do the calculations. So we're going to start sharing my iPad screen, and it looks like this. And what I want to know is how fast is a mile per minute, and specifically our first guess is what is it in miles, or our first answer is what is it in miles per hour. So starting with this, 1 mile per minute is the figure we're looking for. And notice this is 1 mile per minute, so that's really to any number of decimal places. So we're only going to be beholden to sig figs based on the number of sig figs we use in our conversion factors. So with this case, I would like to know miles per hour first. Well, I've already got the miles, so why not just convert the hours? And I think everybody knows how many minutes are in an hour. So I will go ahead and multiply by a fraction. Again, if you're rusty on how to convert units, check out the video on my YouTube channel called Unit Space Conversions, and then there's a colon, and then it says multiplicative, multiplicative. But I think you can find it just by doing a search for unit space conversions. So the trick is, obviously, you try to multiply by 1, which means the numerator and the denominator have to be equal to each other, and you choose the numerator or the denominator so that the unit you have disappears and the unit that you want remains. I'm wanting to get rid of minute, so I'm going to put 60 minutes, which I'll just abbreviate min, on top, and 1 hour, which I'll just abbreviate HR, on the bottom. And that's an exact figure, so I actually get an exactly correct answer to any number of sig figs. So it turns out, lo and behold, that 1 mile per minute, canceling out this minute and this minute, is in fact 60, excuse me. I don't know why I wrote a point there. 60.0 to any number of decimal places we wanted, miles per hour, which, by the way, a lot of times we just write 60.0 mph just to save us time. So that's one answer. A mile per minute is 60 miles per hour. And that's kind of funny in its own right. My mom saying my mouth running a mile a minute. That looks pretty good when you're thinking about being 60 miles per hour. All right, now next, we want it in not only miles per hour, we next would also like it in kilometers per hour. So let's do that. I'm going to start with I'll start with the 60 miles per hour. So we're going to say, once I get it back to blue, we're going to say 1 mile per minute times, or let's say, instead of times, I'm going to go ahead and say it's equal to 60.0 miles per hour. And we want to convert it to of course, kilometers per hour. Now I could go through a bunch of exact factors, or I could use the one I did on the video I just made not 2 minutes ago, which is that 1 mile is equal to 1.6049344, supposedly exactly. But I want to go through the long way just so you can see that you don't have to just do, one or two multiplications at a time. So I'm going to write an X here. I've already got it in fractional form, so I'll put a fraction bar there. I want to convert first from miles to feet. So 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. And then I want to convert from feet to inches, so that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. And then I want to convert from inches to centimeters. All these figures that I've used for conversion factors are exact. So however many sig figs I put in, that's how many sig figs I get out. Now let's take a regroup a second, take a look at our units. We had miles per hour. We see that the miles cancel out with the miles. We had feet per hour, and the feet cancel out with the feet. And notice how I'm using a different mark for each canceling out of units. That way I can look back later and make sure I didn't accidentally mark out a feet with an inch or something like that. You have to use a little bit of imagination. So I've done a bottom left to top right, and then I did a top left to bottom right. Now I'm going to do a full X to get rid of the inches. And now I'm up to centimeters per minute, which is pretty close, but still not great. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put another fraction bar, and I'm going to say 100 centimeters is 1 meter. So now I'm going to do a wavy X mark, and that brings me to meters per hour. And then I'm going to, don't want to do that yet in blue. I want to do that in blue, not red. And then I'm going to be a little bit tricky and try to fit this in. I'm going to put 1,000 meters and 1 kilometer. So now I'm going to do a cancellation, same curvy thing, but I'm going to go from the bottom left to top right. And I can see that I now have kilometers per hour. And finally, continuing on as if nothing ever happened, I'm going to multiply that by, you see I have kilometers per minute. So I want to get rid of the minutes, and I want to take 60 minutes and put it on top. And I'm going to put 1 hour and put that on the bottom. And I can see from this that this minute would cancel out with this minute. Notice how I did use a different symbol, and ultimately I now have an equal symbol. So now I just multiply all the numerators to get a new numerator. So I'm going to take 60 times 5280 times 12 times 2.54 times 1 times 1. And that gives me 965,000. Oh, excuse me, that's 9,656,000. 9,656,064. And that's kilometers on the top. Now I'm going to take the 1 that's understood to be in the bottom. I'm going to multiply that by 1, by 1, by 1, then by 100, and then by 1,000. So, and of course, the units turn out to be just hours in the bottom. So I get 1,000,000 hours in the bottom. And that gives me 96.56. In other words, I can continue on for as many sig figs as I want. This goes up to 0.64, and that is kilometers per hour. All the conversions I used here were exact. So 1 mile per minute, which is 60 miles per hour, should be 96.56064 with any number of zeros after it. So that's also a mile per minute. Next, we want to know how fast is it in meters per second. I think this is a really good number to start with, is a 96.56064. So I'll start with that. So 1 mile per minute is actually equal to, as we just showed, 96.560640 with a bar over it, kilometers per hour. Now I want to convert this to meters per second. So I know that there's 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. And I also know that 1 hour is equal to 3,600 seconds. 3,600 being 60 times 60, just like 6 times 6 is 36. So 60 times 60 is the same thing as 6 times 6 times 10 times 10. So we can see here that the units cancel out, giving me kilometers canceling out, and then giving me hours canceling out. And I clearly get units of meters per second. So in fact, what I'm ultimately doing is just dividing by 3.6. That's a good thing to remember. If you have to do a lot of these, it's just, if you've got kilometers per hour, you're dividing by 3.6. If you got miles per hour, you're multiplying by 3.6. And that'll get you back and forth between them. And the answer is 26.8224. And technically that would be any number of zeros after it, and that's meters per second. So again, using exactly 1 mile and exactly 1 minute, that gives us 26.82240 meters per second. Now, the last part of the question is, what is 1 mile per hour compared to 1 meter per second? So I see here I have 1 mile per minute, which is the same thing as 60 miles per hour. So I could write 60 miles per hour is equal to 26.82240 with a bar after it, meters per second. If I do that, a wise person might think, well, if I want what 1 mile per hour is, then all I have to do is divide both sides by 60, because whatever you do to one side, as long as you do the other in an equation, it's fine. Well, other than dividing by 0 or multiplying through by 0, but that's clearly not what we're doing. So I'm going to divide this side by 60, divide this side by 60, and I'm going to get something that's not that satisfying, to be honest with you. Obviously, I'll get 1 mile per hour on the right, and the left, I will get something that's less than satisfying. I will get 0.44704. And that's in meters per second. I just don't like it because basically it's smaller than 1, but I can flip that around and say that 1 meter per second. Well, I'll go ahead and box this off since that's part of what we asked for. But I can also flip this around and say that 1 meter per second is equal to, and I just do 1 divided by 0.447, or I just raise that 0.44704 to the -1 power. And that'll give me the number of miles per hour in a single meter per second. And in that case, you get 2.23. Let's say 693. And it does not look like it necessarily repeats anytime soon. But anyways, we know that this is to any number of sig figs that we wish. Well, I don't know what just happened. What? No, I do. Sorry. I just jumped to a whole different problem set. So 1.223, and this is actually 1 meter per second is equal to this, which we called earlier MPH. So that actually might be a helpful figure. 1 meter per second is about 2.24 or 2.25 miles per hour. So hopefully that will be of some use to you. know I use it on occasion just to quickly go back and forth between typical units I see on TV or I see driving down the road, and then physics problems I want to solve. So with that in mind, I'll call it a day, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.